I just exhaled and I breathed into the pain in my heart, into the constriction in my body. I breathed into all the areas that were like, no, I want to crawl up in a ball and just hide or just die or, whatever it is. And instead of doing that, I felt it and I breathed into it and through it. And by doing that, it softened. And then there's this vulnerability that comes through that is actually really exquisite and divine and beautiful and otherworldly. And it reminds you of home and it reminds you of who you are. And in that you feel a lightness and an expansion and an infiniteness and a connectivity of really that oneness. I don't care how damn cliche it sounds, you feel it. And then for that moment, it all feels like it's okay. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. Hello, beautiful people. How are you? I'm only doing voice today because I feel like I just kind of want to be in my own bubble and not be seen, not be watched. And maybe this speaks to kind of the energies that I've been tuning into and my own processing. For those that are listening on the week of May 4th, this last weekend gone past was intense. For any one of you that dip your toes into astrology, there was a Scorpio full moon on Friday, and I think it kicked a lot of people's butts. I think this weekend was like a truth barometer almost. And, as you might already know, and if you've been following me and following, people kind of along this tip, that we're just in this ongoing transformation, metamorphosis, crumbling, death and rebirth cycle. And it's intense. And what I want to speak to today is just, it's more just to say, like, if you're going through a hard time right now, you're so not alone. If you're like, what the fuck is going on this planet? You're so not alone right now. If you're unclear and the phrase that keeps on coming through is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. You're so not alone. If you feel like just you don't have hope some days, or maybe it oscillates, some days you feel okay and you feel expansive and you're feeling good. And then in other moments, other days, there's this feeling of just, what is this? What is the point? What is the purpose of this? What is my purpose? What am I doing here? What is going on? What has meaning for me? And then for some of you that might really be even going through bouts of, I'm mindful of using this word, but like depression. And I use it in the sense of, when your spirit feels depressed, it feels pressed down. It doesn't feel alive and enlivened. Maybe there's sadness, maybe there's confusion, maybe there's heaviness, maybe there's pain. There could be so many different things. Again, if this is your experience, you're so not alone. There's a doorway, a portal that we've been moving through right now, and someone was explaining it. Who was it that was explaining it as just going through a massive, massive cycle of whatever you want to call it, karma, density. I guess this is the Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, talks about how we are like the dragonfly, which goes through a mega metamorphosis. We often use the symbol of the butterfly as a metamorphosis, but actually I never knew that a dragonfly starts as a sea creature. And literally one day leaves the water and becomes the dragonfly, and all of a sudden takes to the air. I mean, that is such a massive metamorphosis. I mean, I suppose a butterfly too, from caterpillar to butterfly, but this is going from underwater into an air breathing creature. And he speaks beautifully, or he writes beautifully about it as well. And I think we're just, as I said, that it's like our skin, metaphorically speaking, is so being stretched right now. It's really being stretched. The old identity doesn't work. The old way of being and doing doesn't work. The old beliefs and paradigms don't work. The old is really just literally, I say evaporating, but it's not as elegant as that, maybe. It's not just like this magic show, like poof, and it turns into like fairy dust. The evaporating is kind of squeezing us through the bottleneck in the process of it. And for me personally, it's been a 9-month period that has just been, wow, I don't even have words for it. I've moved through so many different waves of it. And I can say it's not over yet, but I'm kind of looking at it as this 9-month cycle because it's like a pregnancy, right? And I'm kind of at this point of enough, get the baby out. Get the fucking baby out. I don't want to be in this gestation period anymore. I don't want to be pregnant with this desire for my life to move forward with some kind of positive momentum and to be in the living life of it. If you've had a child before, it's like there's this curiosity of like, wow, you might go through the whole morning sickness and bodily pains and all sorts of stuff, but then you get to this point of like, I want this baby to come out because I want to live the life of being with my child and being the mother, and a whole world and kind of timeline that opens up from the birth, that moment of birth forward, right? Not to say that the gestation, the pregnancy isn't of extraordinary value. Of course it is. But you literally get to the point of, I cannot hold this inside of me anymore. I want it outside of me. And I guess that's been my 9 months. It's been such a huge internal journeying because there's been no choice but to go inwards. Everything on the external has kind of come to a stalemate, and I've been living in a place, not by choice, but by necessity, that there's just nothing going on. So really, there's just a lot of being, and there's a lot of going inwards, and there's a lot of just presence. And this place triggers the shit out of me. I excuse me. I really genuinely hate it. I really genuinely hate it. And I haven't had such a strong aversion to a place, I don't think ever before, as I have with this place consistently. And I got away, and I got pulled back, and I'm trying to get away, and it's like quicksand, like try to get out of quicksand, see how that goes. So there's been this internal journeying, and I can see in the ways in which I have grown profoundly. And yet it's like, I think all of us are at this point of like, basta with the healing, basta with the shedding, like enough of the whatever. I mean, there's so many, like even a few of my friends that we would consider ourselves to be very spiritual people. But when I say spiritual, I do not, very clearly do not mean New Age. I really don't mean that. I mean, by spiritual for me, that means I am connected to who I truly am, which is not just this personality of Corinne and this body and this flesh. I am this immortal, infinite soul that is a part of spirit, source, God, whatever you want to call it. I'm not religious. I'm not New Age spiritual. I'm not woo. I'm none of this stuff. But my perception of life is one in which it is vast and infinite and immortal, and one that is woven through the tapestry of love, which is God, which is source, which is who we truly and naturally are. And we've all, I'm putting that as a context to say, like, we're all very spiritual people, but we're like, oh man, I'm just so sick of this spiritual bullshit, And it's more, I think, the spiritualizing of things, the spiritualizing of manifestation. And I wrote a post about this, manifestation and being single and being in a union, and the suffering of human beings. And just sometimes it's like, oh, can we just be real? Can we just be human? Knowing that we're divine beings, but we're having this human experience. Can we just speak plainly without all of the flowery fluff of what this means and, what you should do and what the protocol is. And this is how you are the maker of your life. And, I've probably talked about all that shit on here too. And it's not that I'm falling into pessimism. It's more that I find myself wanting just realism. Give me the real, pure, honest, authentic, with integrity, with genuine, being, purity of being. Just give me that without wrapping paper, without the sprinkles. I don't fucking need the sprinkles. There's a simplicity that arises when we really just drop into being and witnessing and feeling our human experience. And sometimes that feeling is our own energy, our own emotions and feelings and pains and joys. And sometimes it's that of another, and sometimes it's the collective, and sometimes it's the planet, and sometimes it's the cosmos. And all of it is interwoven, right? All of it is part of the same tapestry. So if I rein it back in, we're just going through massive transformational times. And I'm not going to lie, at times it's absolutely exhausting. And I don't know anyone. I really don't know a single person right now that's having a good time of it. I don't have anyone that's like, woo, I'm like surfing this wave and it's great, baby. Like pretty much everyone I know is like, shit, this is hard. This is really hard. And, for me today, I had a very kind of teary, emotional morning because I'd slept 3 hours and I had a migraine, and my cycle is, ready to come in, and nothing in my life is certain. And it's been like that for months upon months upon months. And I haven't had my own home for 2.5 years. And there's things that I deeply desire in my life, but none of it is straightforward, and none of it is clear, and none of it is certain, and none of it is stable. And I just met one of those breaking points again, and just cried. And my practice right now is, it's really easy when you're suffering, when you're in pain, when you're in despair, when you're in confusion, when you're in loss. It's really easy to want to recoil and contract and almost build a cement wall around your heart. It's really natural to want to do that. And my practice right now is soften. How do I stay open? How do I open my heart? Keep my heart open. So Saturday morning, I was in a lot of emotional pain, and I wanted to be really angry about something. I was really upset about something, and I was really triggered. And I just, I was lying in bed, and how when your mind goes into a fantasy of how something could go, how it could work out, what you would say and what you would do. And, I really let myself go there, and I could feel the anger, and I could feel the gripping in my heart. I could feel the tension in my heart. I could feel my heart wanting to just like squeeze shut. And I did two things. One is I recognized I wouldn't be this angry about this thing if I didn't care. So what it showed me is I cared immensely. And that's why I was so angry. So then I just, I was in meditation. And I, as always, every day I ask my higher self, my oversoul, like, what is the message that you want to impart to me today? And I just heard that, like, stay open, keep your heart open. And so I lay down, and another thing that it said was feel it, just feel it. You have to just feel it. So I lay down and I felt the feelings. I didn't go into the story of it, but I felt the feelings. And then I just told myself, and I envisioned it. I put my hand on my heart and I just said, just open your heart, Corinne, open into the vulnerability, open into the tenderness, open into even the sweetness, because there is such a sweetness and gentleness and power in our heart, especially when it's open, but man, it's tender. It's like the first little openings of when the rose goes from a bud and it starts to just kind of crack open before it becomes those soft, billowy petals that kind of cascade over, right? But in the beginning, it's hard. It's a hard little bud, right? And so that cracking open, that's the part that, it'd be so easy to stay tight in a bud, as Anais Nin said, right? It would be so easy to stay tight in a bud, but we're meant to blossom. We're meant to bloom. And, a friend of mine was saying the other day, because I'm journeying through something and I have a certain symbol that is showing up in my life a lot as a reminder of source, really, and my infinite being. And she said, Corinne, your name, Corinne Bloom. Maybe a lot of people think it's Blum because it's Blum, but it's pronounced Bloom. And that is the flower, and there is this natural want and desire to bloom, to blossom. That is our innate nature, I'm going to say. We're not meant to stay tight in a bud. And so it's so easy when there's, the tenderness in the heart and there's strong feelings and emotions and identities and beliefs and experiences and this whole washing machine, spin cycle that we're going through right now. It's so easy to say, I'm going to stay tight in a bud. I'm going to stay tight in a bud. I'm going to be close. And I'm even going to put a fortress around me so that I'm protected and I'm safe and I'm, yeah. And actually what is being asked for right now is let the bud crack open. And, slowly does it. It's okay. You don't have to, the rose doesn't go from a bud to this big, luscious, beautiful, voluptuous, fluffy rose. It slowly, gently opens. And so I think right now it's to be able to hold ourselves in our heart in that way, to be like, okay, soften. We have to soften before we can open. And if we want to receive in life, there's so many people that are wanting to receive love or purpose or home or community, friendship, connection. There's so many people that are lonely and in loneliness, and so many people that are struggling and suffering and, to the point of even questioning their lives and what are they doing here, and they don't want to be here. And, again, if those are your thoughts and feelings, you're not alone. And yet it's like we have to keep on going. But all of that deserves to be held with tenderness, that tender, just humanness of it all, the messy human feels of it all. We have to feel the feels and just to gently breathe through it. And so my way of softening is, first I feel the pain. I feel the sadness. I feel the despair. I feel the fatigue. I feel the distraughtness. I feel the loneliness. I feel the anger. I feel the frustration. I feel the impatience. I feel the confusion. Everything, whatever it is, I feel it. And I can feel that part that's like, oh, it's really this, like the tightening. And I found myself in the forest this morning as I was taking a walk, and I could feel it. I could feel the tightening. And then I just stopped, and I heard the wind rustling through the branches, and I heard the birds tweeting. And I just did that. I just exhaled, and I breathed into the pain in my heart. And I breathed into the constriction in my body. I breathed into all the areas that were like, no, I want to crawl up in a ball and just hide or just die or, whatever it is. And instead of doing that, I felt it and I breathed into it and through it. And by doing that, it softened. And then there's this vulnerability that comes through that is actually really exquisite and divine and beautiful and otherworldly. And it reminds you of home, and it reminds you of who you are. And in that you feel a lightness and an expansion and an infiniteness and a connectivity of really that oneness. I don't care how damn cliche it sounds, you feel it. And then for that moment, it all feels like it's okay. And I'm not really this. And what if I profoundly trusted and had faith? And what I mean by faith is just, it's like in the times where it's the most difficult and we want to know, we want to control, we want to know the outcome, we want to have the answer, we want to have the next step. Faith is just that simple. I mean, I say simple, but sometimes it's not easy, but it is simple. Faith is that trust that everything is just as it's meant to be, and that we're going to be guided to exactly where we're meant to go, and that we're held, and that we're protected, and that we're safe, and that we're loved. But I don't mean that in a cerebral, intellectual, or even physical, you're safe in your home, locked up with security. I don't mean that at all. I mean, you're free. And because you're free and sovereign, and you are a part of Source God, you are forever held and loved and safe and protected because you are that. And in that moment, it's like everything it's okay. And then there is this 0 point, that pause point between the inhalation and the exhalation, in that state of nothingness and everything all at once. And that really is the point and that source of creation. And you're not in the future, and you're not in the past, and you're not in your mind, and you're just in being. You're in that isness. And there's respite there. There's relief in that moment. And even though you might snap back into the story and the drama or the pain and the suffering and the challenge and the what the fuckness of it all, there's that moment of softness and softening where you can feel yourself held. And I know it's invisible, but you're held no less. So I just want you to know that you're not alone. I really just want you to know that you're not alone, and that it's just a really hard period of time on this planet as a human. And I do believe that we get to a good place, but we're just going through this squeeze. And I think, the ways that we can still see beauty in life, in ourselves, in others, in the world, if we can still hold gratitude for the things that are good in our everyday life, even the tiniest, teeniest things. And to know that we're really not alone. I do these podcasts and I write because if it makes one person feel less alone, then I've done my job. And if I can show up in my own humanity and to say, like, I don't know how to do this either, folks. None of us do. Life doesn't come with a manual. But all I can say through my own experience and the wisdom that I've garnered from it is the more that I soften. That doesn't mean I become weak. I'm a strong-ass woman. I'm a strong-ass woman. It doesn't mean I become weak, but we don't need to be hard to be strong. We are at our most powerful when our heart is open. And we're actually at our strongest when we're in that softness of being, because the softness of being simply says, I'm not in resistance to who I am, to my experience, and to my humanity. I'm not fighting against myself. The softness is, I trust you, Source. I trust you, God. I trust you, Soul. I trust you, Corinne. I trust myself. I trust life. I haven't a fucking clue what's next, but I trust, I have faith, I believe, even if it's all in the dark and I do not know where to place my foot next and I feel like I'm hanging in thin air. I still have faith that I'm being held. And it's okay to cry, and it's okay to scream, and it's okay to say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And you just keep taking the next breath. And you keep taking the next small step. And maybe you don't even need to go anywhere right now. Maybe we're all just being asked to just be. And it's damn uncomfortable sometimes. But we're recalibrating everything. We're changing our center of gravity from the brain, like the mind, the left part of the mind. Even everything is like mindfulness, mindfulness, mindfulness. Yes, that's beautiful. But I'm like, beingness, beingness, beingness. Let's practice that. Let's practice being in the body. Let's practice no longer escaping. Let's practice no longer distracting. Let's practice no longer numbing. Let's be in beingness and feel and be in the body and in our feelings. And yes, we have to learn how to use them with mastery, with wisdom, with emotional intelligence. But we've got to be in it. We've got to feel it, and then your heart can soften. And when your heart is soft, it opens. And when it's open, it can receive all the love which you so greatly and innately and naturally deserve. So I'll leave you with what I wrote today. It's nothing special, but somehow I feel compelled to share it. The picture of me was on a forest path, and the photo is taken while I'm spinning. And I happen to just have a moment where I'm spinning, but my arms are outstretched, my chest is open, and I'm looking backwards. It's like almost like a whirling dervish. And the camera catches a moment where I'm looking at it, but I'm open and I'm in movement, in circular, cyclical movement. And so I write, just me in the forest, my feelings and my suspended breath. Suspended because nothing in my life is certain, not a one thing. And I'm trying real hard to keep my chest open and my heart soft. Today it feels damned hard because I only slept 3 hours and had a migraine, and my cycle is to begin, and I'm hanging in thin air with what feels like a void rather than a net or a fluffy cotton ball cloud to catch me. It's the moment when things are the most uncertain that faith is called upon the most. It's the moment when you want to crawl into a ball and let the cement form a wall around your heart, that a gentle, sweet, and tender love is needed for yourself. To keep the heart supple like rose petals rather than hard like stone and sticks. I sigh with the whispering wind agitating the branches above. I feel the agitation too, trees. I feel the agitation too. I can choose to harden, or I can choose to let go, in the not knowing, in the fatigue of instability, in the despair of not seeing any end in sight. It's fucking mastery, my friends. To stay in love, to be love, to trust love and source and myself beyond doubt, knowing that we're all cut from the same silk anyhow. Breathe in, breathe out. It's all I can do. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are safe. You are supported. You are protected. You are loved. You belong. We're in this together through the hard times, through the hopefully some fun times, the good times, through the humanity of it all. We're in it together, and together we will find the divinity through this messy, mucky mess. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.